Welcome to this series where you and I build a free, at-home cyber threat detection lab using Splunk and Linux. I'm going to walk you through every click and every command so you can follow along with confidence. In this first video, we'll spin up two Ubuntu machines, one to be a target machine to attack and one to host our Splunk server. Don't skip this video because there are a lot of details I need to show you, and I'm going to throw in a lot of pro tips that'll make working with VMs and Linux in general a lot easier and a lot more satisfying experience. In video 2, we'll install Splunk using a quick, clean method that the pros use. Once you see it, you won't want to go back to installing software the old way, trust me. Then in video 3, we'll configure a real security log stream from your Ubuntu target to our dedicated Splunk server. The same way massive enterprise-level Splunk deployments do it, except without the six-figure price tag. After that, in video 4, we'll build our first real Splunk security alert, one that fires the moment a brute force attack hits your system. This is the core of the entire threat detection lab. Finally, in video 5, we'll launch an actual brute force attack from a Kali box against your Ubuntu VM. You can watch the alert you set up light up in Splunk. This will be a great, satisfying payoff for all of your hard work. By the end of this series, you won't just understand how threat detection works, you'll have an actual cyber threat detection lab built inside of your own home. Now, let's get started. Okay, here we go. We're going to go to ubuntu.com/download. And then we're going to click Download Ubuntu Desktop. Now, 90% of you are going to use this 64-bit architecture right here. And if you need something else besides the 64-bit architecture, you probably already know. So I'm going to go ahead and click Download. And then it's going to start the download here automatically. Now pay close attention to what I do with this file after it downloads, specifically where I put it and how I handle it, in order to save myself some grief later. So for the sake of time, I downloaded it off camera so we can skip ahead to the file I've already downloaded, and it's right here. Here's the ISO file. An ISO file, you can think of it like a CD with a piece of software that's made to install the software itself. Now watch me, I'm going to go to the C drive, and I've created a folder here called VMs. And if you don't already have this folder, go ahead and create a folder called VMs. And then I'm going to go inside of it, and I'm going to create two folders inside the VMs folder. One is going to be called Ubuntu Splunk. And then the other one is going to be called Ubuntu Target. And I'm going to go to this ISO file that I downloaded. I'm going to cut it. Now I'm going to go back to the VMs folder. I'm going to drop a copy into the Ubuntu Splunk folder. And I'm going to also drop a copy into the Ubuntu Target folder. So now we have a copy in both folders. Okay, what did I do here that's so important? Well, instead of downloading the Ubuntu ISO file twice, I downloaded it once and dropped a copy into each VM folder. Again, the ISO is just the installer, and there is no need to download the ISO file twice for two different Ubuntu instances, so reusing it saves time and keeps things simple. Also, I created this main VM folder on the C drive with two subfolders here and here. One's for our Splunk server, and one's for the Ubuntu target that we're going to practice attacking. There are two big reasons for this. First, the C drive isn't backed up to OneDrive by default, and that's actually good. A Splunk server is constantly ingesting logs, which means OneDrive would constantly try to sync them. That burns resources, slows your machine down, and honestly, I don't need Microsoft indexing and snooping through my lab data. Second, I used to install VMs all the time and save them all over my machine, only to forget where I put them. Keeping all your VMs in one clean, predictable spot saves you the frustration of hunting them down when you need them later. So it's all in one folder, it's easy to find, and it's easy to manage. Now the ISO file we downloaded is just the installer, so now we move on to a very important step: prepping the Ubuntu machines for installation. Some of these staging steps are not very intuitive, so watching what I do will save you some anxiety. I'm going to show you how to prep Ubuntu installations on VMware Workstation, which is free, but VirtualBox will work just fine as well if you prefer that. Just bear in mind that the steps will be slightly different on VirtualBox. So you can't see it, but off screen, I'm double clicking my VMware Workstation, and I'm going to drag it over here so you can see it. And I'm going to click create a new virtual machine. And then where it says installer disk image file, I'm going to say browse. And then let's start with the Ubuntu Splunk ISO. So we'll open this one. Then we'll hit next. And it's going to ask us for a username and password and some other information. So we'll just kind of put what we want in here. Then we'll hit next. Now it's going to ask us what we want for our machine name. And I'm going to name it, to keep everything simple, Ubuntu Splunk, because this is setting up the stage for our Splunk server hosted on Ubuntu. So we'll change the location here. We'll go to our C drive. This is where it's going to install and store our actual installed VM. And I'll select Ubuntu Splunk folder, hit OK, hit next. Now our Splunk server is going to need a little bit of hard drive, so I'm going to give it 100 gigs. It's going to need a lot because it's probably going to be storing a lot of logs. And here I'm going to select Store Virtual Disk as a single file because this will give us smoother performance. What this does is it keeps all your VM's data in one chunk instead of many smaller chunks, which helps the VM run faster and reduces clutter. Now we'll hit next, and then we'll click Customize Hardware. Now for our Ubuntu host that will hold our Splunk server, I'm going to give it 4 cores or processors, because Splunk will need that because it performs indexing, searching, and compression all at the same time. And then I'm also going to give it 8 gigabytes of RAM. I have plenty of RAM on this machine. I have 96 gigabytes of RAM. Minimum, you should have 4 for the VM hosting the Splunk server, but I'm going to give it 8 just to be comfortable. And then I'm going to click close. I'm going to uncheck power on this virtual machine after creation because we still have to set up our Ubuntu target server as well. Then I'm going to click finish. And you can see it popped up here. Now stand by to see the hardware specifications I give our other Ubuntu host that will be our target that we'll throw attacks against, because you need to see what specifications I give it and hear my reasoning why. So we'll work on the next machine. We'll go back to home. We'll go create new virtual machine. We'll select the ISO under Ubuntu target folder. We'll hit next. It's going to ask us for this information again. We'll just give it something for now to keep it happy, because it's going to ask us to do this again when we actually install the operating system, because right now we're just staging the VM. And then we're going to call it Ubuntu-target, because this will be the machine we throw attacks against. And then it wants us to choose where to store it. And then we'll go this PC in the C drive, VMs folder, Ubuntu target folder. And then we'll hit next. Now this one, I'm not as worried about it having a ton of memory because it just exists for us to throw attacks at. And then again, we'll hit store virtual disk as a single file because it's more compact and it'll give us smoother performance. We'll hit next, customize hardware. On this particular machine, because we're just throwing attacks against it, the 2 processors is fine and the 4 gigs of memory is fine as well. You can go down to 2 gigs of RAM if you want, since there's not going to be a lot going on with this machine, but I'm going to give it 4 just to be safe. I'll hit close, and then we'll uncheck power on this virtual machine after creation, and then we'll hit finish. You can see now the Ubuntu target VM popped up as well. So now that we've downloaded and prepped our Ubuntu virtual machines, we move on to the actual installation portion. This step will present us with a lot of options that are not very clear at face value. So you should see what I am selecting and hear why I am selecting what I am, even if you don't have to necessarily follow my example. So we'll pick the first one, which is Ubuntu target. We'll click play virtual machine. Then we'll open this up and wait for it to start. And you can see it's still booting up. Now we'll hit next, 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 use wired connection, and it says, hey, an update is available for this installer. So we're going to go ahead and update the installer. So this isn't installing the OS. This is just updating the installer itself. Now, updating the installer gives you the newest fixes and hardware support, which helps avoid bugs during setup. It also makes your installation smoother and less likely to break. So we'll go ahead and hit close installer. Now you'll notice that Ubuntu is not full screen at this point. After the initial installation, I'll show you how to fix that by installing something called VMware Tools. So now we're at this screen, we'll double click install Ubuntu. And here it brings us to this screen again. Next, 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 use wired connection. Yeah, that's fine. You can also choose not to connect to the internet at all, but wired connection is fine. Now we're going to choose interactive installation because it walks us through installing Ubuntu step by step, and it's really the easiest, most beginner-friendly way to install Linux, partially because it doesn't need any advanced setup files. So we choose interactive installation, hit next. Now we're going to choose default selection. Default selection installs only Ubuntu Essentials and essentially gives us a lightweight setup without all the extra apps that we don't really need for our lab. And then we'll hit next. So we're not going to check any of these boxes. We're skipping them because our Splunk lab doesn't need extra drivers and music codecs. All they do is slow the install down. So a clean, minimal install is what we want. We'll go ahead and click next. Now this is a scary one. We're going to select erase disk and install Ubuntu. This option means Ubuntu will completely wipe the virtual hard drive and install itself automatically. It will set everything up for you. Partitions, file system, everything will be default. I am choosing this because at this point we don't need customizations like partition disk encryptions or dual boot. So we'll hit next. And here it asks us for username and password and computer name. I'm going to put Ubuntu Splunk. Oh wait, no, this is the target. So we're going to go Ubuntu target. Username is Vero. I'm going to put in a password. Confirm it. So we don't have Active Directory to connect to, so we're going to leave that box unchecked. And we do want to require a password to log into our machine for security. Then we're going to hit next. Select a time zone here. I'm in PST time zone, so I'm going to select that and hit next. And then it allows us to review all of our choices here. And so I'm going to hit install. Now this is going to take a while, so I'm going to have to fast forward the video. All right, it just finished installing, so I cut out about 10-15 minutes out of the video. We'll go ahead and click restart now. All right, it restarted it, but you know what? I'm just gonna go ahead and shut this down for now. Now we'll fly through the next installation, and after that is done, I'll show you how to fix the small screen issue by installing VM tools. So we'll open up the Ubuntu Splunk one now. It will hit play virtual machine. Here we go again. We'll hit next, next, next. Use wired connection because I'm connected to the internet. We'll update the installer like we did last time. Now the installer's updated. We'll go ahead and close that. Double click install Ubuntu. Next, next, next again. Use wired connection because I am connected to the internet. Interactive installation again. All the default selections, no frills. We're not going to install any extra third-party software. And then we do want to erase the disk and install Ubuntu on a clean virtual machine disk. So we'll hit next. We'll go Vero. Computer name, this is the computer that's going to host the Splunk server, so we'll call it Ubuntu-Splunk. That's my username. I'll put in a password. Yes, we do want to require a password to log in. We'll hit next. PST time zone, that's good for me. Review our choices here. We'll hit install, and this will take another 10-15 minutes, but I'll cut it out of the video to keep you guys from being bored to tears. Okay, now it finished installing. Let's hit continue testing, and now I will show you how to install Open VM tools to make sure that Ubuntu is full screen. So I hit my Windows key, and I type terminal, hit enter. I'll make this as big as possible so you guys can see it. So first we're going to run sudo apt update. Sudo apt update just tells Ubuntu, hey, go and check the Ubuntu software repositories and download the newest package information. It doesn't install anything. It just updates the list so your system knows all of the latest software versions that are actually available. We can see it finished there. Next, we install OpenVM tools like this, sudo apt install open-vm-tools, and we'll type open-vm-tools, oh, not tools, tools-desktop, and then we'll go -y as well. Okay, so Open VM tools right here, these are the core tools that help Ubuntu talk to VMware. And Open VM tools desktop installs extra features for the graphical desktop, such as automatic screen resizing. And the -y down here tells it to automatically answer yes, so it installs without prompting you for confirmation. Then we'll hit enter. Now that that's finished, we'll update the text editor that can be found on all Linux machines called Vim or VI. So let's clear the screen. Sudo apt install vim-y. Hit enter. And now for the changes to take effect, we'll go ahead and reboot. So we'll type sudo reboot. Now, after the reboot and installation of Open VM tools on the other machine, I have two more quick, helpful tips to show you that will make working with configuration files easier and make your general Linux experience better. So we'll go ahead and shut this down. This is the Ubuntu Splunk. And then we'll go back to Ubuntu Target, play virtual machine. We'll log in with our username and password we selected at installation. And then to get out of this, we'll just hit next. Now we just restarted after the install, so now it's asking us, hey, do you want to upgrade to Ubuntu Pro? So we're going to skip Ubuntu Pro upgrade, which simply offers to give your machines a bunch of free updates. I'm not going to do this for the lab, but if you want to keep this machine and use it for a long period of time, you probably should consider doing this. And no, I don't want to share any system data with Ubuntu. And I don't want to install any extra apps, so I'll just click finish. And then again, I hit the Windows button, type terminal, hit enter. I'll make this a little bit bigger. And then we gotta update our package manager, apt update. So this way Ubuntu has the latest list of packages. And then we're gonna install OpenVM tools again. So we'll go, well, let's clear this. We'll go sudo apt install open-vm tools, just like we did on the other one. Open-vm-tools-desktop. It's going off screen. And -y, so it won't prompt us for confirmation. Then we'll hit enter. And then it'll install all that. We'll clear this again, and now we're going to update the VI text editor or Vim text editor, sudo apt install vim-y, hit enter. And then we're going to reboot for the changes we made to take effect. Now rebooted, we're going to log back in again. And notice this time, because we installed VMware tools, we'll minimize that and reopen it. Now we have full screen. So I'll hit the Windows key again, type terminal, hit enter. We'll make this bigger. Okay, second to the last thing I'm going to show you. We're going to take our bash prompt and change it to the style you are used to seeing on my screen. So we'll type vi bash rc. Make sure to use the little squiggly mark there, / and the dot. We'll hit enter. Now bash rc is your shell's personal startup file. Every time you open a new terminal, it runs this file to set up your environment, aliases, colors, and preferences. Other than that, for the sake of time, I'm not going to expand further on what you're seeing since it's out of the scope for this video. But now we're going to go to the bottom. I'll just hit Shift G and it'll take us all the way to the bottom. And then I'll hit O to go to a new line. No, remind me later, go away. And then I'm copying something off screen, and then I'm going to paste this into the file, and then I'm going to hit Escape to get out of insert mode, and I'm going to hold down Shift and hit the Z key twice, so Shift ZZ to save. Now that text that I just copied and pasted into the bottom of that file, I will copy and paste that bash prompt setting in the description of this video so you can use it as well if you'd like. And now we need to put those changes into effect, so we're going to reload the bash rc file. And you can see there that it changed the look of our prompt to what you're used to seeing. Now on to the last item for this setup. I'm about to show you some really helpful modifications for the VI text editor that will make working with configuration files so much easier. But you know what? As a bonus for sticking with me for this long, after we perform the VI modification, I'm going to show you one more helpful bash modification that I recently started implementing and I really enjoy. So this time we're going to open Vim. We'll say vi vimrc. This is the vi or vim configuration file, and we are going to hit the I key to insert text. We're going to type set number and then hit enter, and then we're going to type syntax on and hit enter, and then we're going to type color scheme elf lord. A pretty funny name. Now we're going to hit escape to get out of insert mode, and we're going to hold down Shift ZZ to save the file. Now, what did we do? Well, let's rerun this. Set number tells VI to always show line numbers. This way you always know where you are in a file. Syntax on turns on color coding so your text is easier to read and understand. And Color Scheme Elf Lord here applies a built-in color scheme called Elf Lord that makes Vim text really just more aesthetically pleasing to look at. And so now we'll get out of this. I'll hold down the Shift key and hit ZQ to get out of that without saving. Now we're on to our last modification, for real this time. Stick with me, we're almost there, and this is a really nice one to have. So this time we will go sudo vi root.bash rc, and then I'm gonna hit Shift G to go to the bottom of the file, and then let me expand this so you can see I'm down here at the bottom of the file, and then I'm gonna hit O to insert a new line, and then I am going to copy this off screen, and then I am going to paste it into the bottom here, and then I'm going to hit Shift ZZ. Oh, let me hit escape first to get out of insert mode, and then I'll hit Shift ZZ to save the file. What if we just get into root? There we go. Looks like we didn't have to reload it. Okay, what's special about this? We'll see how our bash prompt when we're in root is all red now. I make my root prompt bright red because being the root user can break the entire system if you type just one bad command. The red color is kind of like a visual warning that you are in danger mode, so you don't accidentally run destructive commands. Now I'm going to go ahead and make the same changes on the second Linux machine. You can skip ahead if you want, but watching it again is great reinforcement and really helps the concept stick. So we'll get out of this, and then we'll shut this down, power off. That's Ubuntu target, so now we need to make these changes on the Ubuntu Splunk host. So we'll go Ubuntu Splunk, play virtual machine. Now we'll log in with the username and password that we created. We'll minimize, maximize the screen again. There we go, full screen right there. Hit the Windows key, type terminal, hit enter. Opens up our terminal. Now we're going to edit our bash prompt so it looks like the normal bash prompt you're used to seeing in my videos. vi bash rc, hit Shift G to go to the bottom of the file, hit the letter O to go to the next line and enter insert mode. Then I'm going to copy this off screen, paste it here, hit escape to get out of insert mode, hold down Shift and hit ZZ to save the file. And then we're going to reload the bash rc file into our current session with the source command, and there you see the normal prompt. Let's maximize this. Now let's set our VI settings with the vimrc configuration file. We'll type set number to turn on line numbers, syntax on, and color scheme elf lord. So the syntax on will cause different colors on different pieces of text, and the color scheme elf lord is just for the color aesthetic. So we'll hit escape to get out of insert mode, hold down Shift ZZ to save, and now we'll modify the root prompt. We'll say sudo vi root.bash rc. Shift G to go to the bottom of the file, hit the O key to open a new line. Let me copy this off screen. And again, I'm gonna put this into the description in the video so you can just copy and paste it yourself. We'll paste it in there. Hit escape to get out of insert mode, hold down Shift ZZ to save the file and get out. And now if we go to root, it should show up as red. There we are, the red prompt. Okay, so your VM is online, the tools are in place, and your lab journey starts now. If you followed along, great job. If not, rewind and install it yourself. Hands-on practice is where everything clicks. In the next episode, we'll install Splunk piece by piece using a fast, clean method that the pros love. If you have any questions, go ahead and post them below, and thanks for hanging out with me. I enjoyed making this video, and I really enjoyed showing you all how to set up these Ubuntu VMs in preparation for our Splunk installs. Take care.